How you doing? I'm Kevin O'Hara for alcoholmastery.com and habitsunplugged.com. Today's topic is something I've been hearing lately, just coming out of a lot of governments in the Western world. A lot of stuff that you see around you. You'll see this in your own locality, that alcohol has been deemed to be an essential service during this lockdown. A lot of people are, a lot of places, a lot of businesses are being shut down, but alcohol is still being sold. So we're on day 15 of our Spanish lockdown. So really I'm settling into this routine now. And I'm looking at it as a good opportunity to reset. I love to reset myself every so often. I do this regularly, not lock myself in the house, but I do something every so often. This is something that was been forced on me. I think one of the last resets I did was a juice reboot, and that was just to sort of reset my taste buds, to get rid of a salt craving that I had. But anyway, I'm finding it as a real opportunity to reset the way I think about things, and getting into that routine, getting into the habit, and hopefully the consequences of this are not going to be as bad as a lot of people say they are. I think there's a good opportunity here for reframing things, both on a society-wide scale and an individual scale as well. So I think definitely they're going to be forced into a position where they will be much better prepared for something that happens again. If this kind of thing happens. I mean, I was listening to a video, a TED talk with Bill Gates, and he predicted this 5 years ago. He said this is going to happen, and these are the things that we need to do to prepare. And instead of it costing us trillions, costing the world trillions in lost revenue, it should have only cost us tens of billions, or maybe 100 billion or something like that. I know these are mad figures, but it's just the information was there, but they never did anything about it. But anyway, that's a different story. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe and click on the bell icon so you don't miss any of our videos. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Like or unlike the video, whatever is your preference, it all counts. So alcohol being deemed as an essential service, and cigarettes, and in some countries cannabis as well. People have been stockpiling. One of the first days we went down to the shops, and you just see people coming out with trolleys full of alcohol. And toilet roll. I don't get the toilet roll thing. I mean, I just haven't got a clue what that was about. Toilet roll. Why would you stockpile toilet roll? It's a weird one to me. An essential service for me, by definition, is maybe the hospital sectors, or electricity services, water services, police, the armed forces, firefighting services, prison services, keeping people in prison, the provision of food, air traffic control, things like that. They're the things that have to go on to keep people alive and to keep the society functioning in general. Now, this one is no surprise to me that alcohol is being put out as an essential service. People, when they don't get their fix, drug addicts, when they don't get their fix, think about what is going to happen. This is a mass scale. It's the same as tobacconists, right? Drug companies are laughing their ways to the bank. Everyone is bored. What are they going to do when they're bored? They drink more. And one of the reasons I understand is to prevent social unrest. It keeps the masses numb. It keeps people desensitized. It keeps people medicated. That's just the way it is, isn't it? I mean, this is the reason. One of the reasons why alcohol is out there in the first place is to keep people desensitized, and to keep people medicated up, in some form or another, so that they don't go mad, and they don't go out there and start wreaking havoc on the community in general. So, imagine whole countries going into withdrawal. There's some sense about it for those who are heavily addicted, and there are a very small minority of people who are at risk at this. There's a lot of people at that top end of the scale, who drink all the time, and they've got so much alcohol inside their system all the time. Their body is that used to it, their mind is that used to it, that in order to stop drinking, they've to go under a medical reduction. So they've to gradually reduce it, and, with the help of medications and other things, before they can even start to look at changing their lives. I understand that, right? But there's ways of doing this, right? So, this is one of the biggest excuses that I've come across, is because of those people, because of those individuals who, they're afraid that these people will start drinking, rubbing alcohol. And, there is a possibility of that. So I get that part of it, right? But for most people, the vast majority of people, the withdrawal is not physical. There's a physical element to it for some people, but for most people, it's mentally uncomfortable. Now, I know there's going to be people who are going to say to me, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. It's a dangerous thing." I'm saying that to you. It is a dangerous thing for some people, right? For people who have gone so far, right, into this drinking, into putting alcohol inside their bodies, that they cannot stop. And this takes a lot of alcohol to get to that stage. They talk about this rock bottom phase, where you get to this phase where, you can't go any lower. And I say, for most people, there are sign upon sign upon sign as you're digging yourself down into that life, to say to you, stop doing this to yourself. But for other people, they just keep doing it, and I'm not judging anybody, I don't know what type of life they're living, or, that's neither here nor there. I can't help people like that. The only people I can help who are the people who have this under control, who can stop drinking for a couple of days but can't do it into the long term. That's who I can help. That's who I'm talking to all the time. Now, I'm worried about those people who are trapped inside of houses with abusive drinkers, let's say. There's families out there who are, men and women who are abusive drinkers, who are going to take it out onto the people. They get into whatever state they're into, and they drink, and, they just get worse and worse. So, it's those people I'm afraid of. People who are going to drink more just because they're bored, and to overcome that boredom, right? So, when you look at alcohol, there's plenty of places, there's plenty of times in life when people are isolated. They're forced into this isolation, whether it's, going to prison, or when they're in sort of a hospital environment, when they're doing jobs like oil rigs, for instance, where they're not allowed to drink, and they don't say, well, alcohol is an essential service from that point of view. So, it's just, it's a different point of view, right? So I just want you to imagine, if it was decreed that alcohol wasn't an essential service, right? Just looking at it from the perspective of the individual for a minute. We've been here in Spain 2 weeks. Like I said, this is day 15 now, and we've easily got another 2 weeks to do before they're going to lift this state of emergency over here. We're allowed to go back out, and a lot of shops are going to open, and whatever, it could be longer than that. So we're talking about a month, right, of having this now. If someone were considering quitting drinking alcohol, right, and they can't get alcohol for a month, that's a whole month that they've gone into their own journey. 30 days, I always say, is that time period when, if you can get to that 30 days and you can sort of understand what it's like to not drink anymore, when you can understand, how much of a better sleep you will get after 30 days. And a lot of people, it took me 30 days to get to that stage where I was really sleeping well. My brain was thinking, on a different level. That was 30 days. And, it got better and better and better as it went on. But for 30 days to pass that 30-day mark is, for a lot of people, is to get the daily drinking out of their system, right? To put that bit of distance between themselves, right? So you might have got people who weren't considering quitting drinking alcohol, but they haven't been able to get any alcohol, and they're now in a position where they're sleeping better, they're thinking better, they're being much more productive in themselves, Looking at something like a dry January on a massive scale, what would that do to the bottom line of the alcohol companies or the government, right? Alcohol companies rely on the people who drink heavily. They don't have to spend much money on people who drink heavily, right? Because they already know that they're hooked. They're going to be buying alcohol no matter what. So they concentrate a lot of their advertising spend on young people. So, just from that perspective, imagine the result of millions of people waking up at once to what's happening. So, for me, reframing, this is like an opportunity to make real changes. It's reframing things in your head so you're not stuck inside, but you're reframing that into an opportunity to see things from a different perspective, to try and live your life from a different perspective. Whatever happens outside of you and your family, right? You've got the chance now, the opportunity to change, to see yourself in a different light, to begin your own epic journey. What's the alternative, right? To stay medicated to the world, to life, to your life. Many people are seeing this as a doom and gloom scenario. And it is for some, right? For those who are working on the front line, for doctors and nurses and the medical staff and the police and, people who have to deal with this right out there on the front line, for those who are sick and having to go through this, this is a shit time for them, right? But for the rest of us, all we're being asked to do is to stay at home, to stay in our own safe homes with our families. That's an ideal opportunity to start thinking at least about making some changes, making the changes that you need to make in your life while the normal pressures of your life outside of the outside world are off, they're turned off. So, I used to think how strong I was when I was drinking. When I look back on my life as a drinker, right up until the time that I stopped drinking, I always considered myself at my core self to be a strong person. I was Irish, I was a man. Alcohol drinking was just a part and factor of my life. It was a part of the person who I was. This is what I did. I went out and worked hard during the week. And then in the evenings and on the weekends, I drank Guinness and I sat around putting the worlds to rights with the lads, So when I look back now from my perspective now, 7 years after I stopped, especially in times like these, in times where there is a bit of strife or there's a bit of discomfort or shit's going on, that is just not good, for want of a better word. I see how fragile I really was, right? If anything, even anything uncomfortable happened to me, my first reaction was almost always to hit the bottle, right? To use alcohol to make the discomfort disappear, to make it go away. And I can understand that now, because since I started on my own epic journey, I've become so much more resilient and resourceful. I've been adapting to a life without alcohol from day one, right? I've been adapting to a life without alcohol and thriving without alcohol, adapting and thriving to whatever life throws in my direction, right? You can only hide so much before the world will just one day leave you behind. And that's the way I felt before I stopped drinking. My life was just being left behind. I was continuing on this thing that I was doing, and I was getting sucked deeper and deeper and deeper. It was like digging myself into a hole that was deeper and deeper. Now, there's a thing called I can't remember the term, but they talked about it. This woman called Rhonda, what's her name? The book was called The Secret. Anyway, now I'm not a great believer in that kind of shit, right? But I am a believer in the power of positive focus, right? So you focus on something positive in your mind, and when you focus on that, you can get that. You can achieve what you want to do, but you have to focus on it. You have to think about it, and you have to do it. And the key word there is do. You've got to do it. You can't sit on your arse and say, well, I want a Ferrari in my front garden. It's not going to happen. You have to get up and make it happen, right? But I do believe that if you go out there and you do these things, you create that environment for yourself where these things are gonna happen, right? But the opposite is also true. You know, there is just as much power in negative focus and in not doing things. If you focus your mind on something negative like alcohol, then that is only going to bring you back that same negative shite. And it's what happened. Like I say, this is what my life was. And it does come down to that choice. So alcohol is only essential to you if you make it essential. You know, the government are out there and they're saying, right, this is an essential service. Now you can take that on board and you can think, well, yeah, I told you it was essential. It's essential for life. Or you can say to yourself, what bullshit, you know. It's essential for the people who just don't want to achieve anything in their lives. But I do. I want to get on with my life. I want to get to that best possible version of myself. And I ain't going to do it if I'm focusing my mind on this negativity. You know, it doesn't have to be that way. You can choose to live in a completely different way. Like I said, I made that choice 7 years ago and I haven't looked back since, right? So enough of the rant now. If you want to stop drinking alcohol and you want to start your own epic journey, there's a book down below which you can download right now, which will help you to get moving in the right direction. So all you have to do is click on the link down below to download it. Just leave your name and email address and I'll send you out a copy straight away. So listen, take care of yourself in these really strange times. Look after yourself, keep the alcohol out of your mouth. Onwards and upwards. Take care. Bye now.